All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm gonna be showing y'all how to do a swing launch, or pretty much, a swing launch with a switch track in the middle, something like Pantheon, Tutatis, or anything of that nature. So basically, in FVD, you're gonna want to have 3 sections, and this is mostly to show y'all how to do the spike. Oh, let's go ahead and reflip that. Mostly to show y'all how to do the spike in FVD, because it's kind of tricky. You have to start up in the air to create your spike, whereas with everything else, you start from the end, and you start from the beginning and you end up at the end. With the spike, we're going to start at the end, which is up in the air, as I'm going to show y'all. And the end is going to be what connects into our switch track. From there, you want to go ahead and do your second half, right? The spike comes after. So for me, when I'm designing a coaster, I normally give myself enough room there to where I can play with the back half of this, that's coming from my brake run. All right, so we got our first half, right? Our first half ends here. And you're gonna kind of want to line this up as best as you can, so that once you get in No Limits 2 and you import your elements, it's gonna kind of line up, you know what I mean? So, and then always give yourself extra room. Always give yourself extra room to play with, because you can always take away in No Limits 2. For example, if this is too long, see how they overlap? That's what you want. You want them to overlap as they do here. So that way in No Limits 2, if it's too long, you can just delete some vertices and say, if I don't want it this long, I can bring it down to here. All that takes is deleting vertices in No Limits 2. Then with the spike is the tricky part. Most people do their spikes in No Limits 2 afterwards, because they don't know how to do this, what I'm about to show y'all. So with the spike, boom. In this case, we have a twisted spike here. And the tricky part is having your anchor up in the air. So as you can see here, my anchor is up in the air. Look at this, 192 feet up in the air. Normally you start down here, right? Normally you would start down here and you would build progressively forward. No, with this, let's go ahead and bring this down a little bit. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. So our straight track that comes after our anchor, basically our anchor is going to start up here in the air. And then you're going to want to build downwards. Now, if you want a straight spike, and not a twisted spike, this would not be a geometric section. It would not be a forced section. It would be a straight section going all the way down into a curved section, which is what we have here at the, not quite. We had to do a geometric because it was hard to do this with a forced section. So I did a geometric section, but if you're doing a straight track, you don't really have to worry about that. And we're not going to go into why we did geometric and our geometric graph here, because that's irrelevant. We're just showing you how to do a swing launch with the switch track here. So you would do a straight section, curved section coming down, and then of course you want it to, the positioning doesn't really matter, because it's going to be connected to our second half via the switch track. So I mean, like, if you want, you can move this however you need to get it to line up. However you need to get it to line up. Remember, we don't even have to do that in this, because we could do that in No Limits 2. In No Limits 2, you're just going to select all of the vertices in this. You're going to move it however you want to. So basically, we want to make sure we have all 3 of these sections. Your switch track is going to connect all of this. So the directional, this is important. Let me not leave this out. The direction that your second half starts in, the angle that it starts in, is where your spike is going to lead into. So for example, if you want your spike to be here, going straight up here, you're going to want your second half to kind of be rotated into that area, facing that area. Now, I know that I wanted my spike to be in this general area, which is the direction that I'm going in. Wherever you want your spike, that's where you want your direction of your second half to start at. I knew I wanted my spike to be here. So if I go ahead and show you that, boom, my spike. Now I just rotated a little bit before this, but generally that's the area that it's going to be in. Now, if I have to rotate the spike or move it afterwards, no problem. We can do that in FVD. I'm sorry, in No Limits 2. All right, so one by one, we're going to upload this into No Limits 2. So let's go ahead and get No Limits 2 open. All right, so we're going to go into our editor, open up a... Now, if you've already been testing your track, as you should be doing as you build it in FVD, always export it, import it, and test it so that you can make sure everything is where you want it to be. Your forces are how you want them to be. You want everything to be, because with FVD, if you use FVD, you know you cannot go back and change stuff once it's already built. It will mess up everything that comes after it, sometimes even the stuff before. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open up a new park. We're going to rename it to Swing Launch Tutorial. Sorry, I can't spell. All right. Okay. Yes, we want to create that. Now with our terrain, we are just going to set the height a little bit higher. Let's go with, I normally always do this. So if you don't want like a lake or a river, whatever, if you don't want to deal with the water in this game, typically it's always right under, literally right under the default height of the terrain. So we're going to go ahead and set this to 100 feet, come up so we're above it. Now, if we want to flatten this, if we want to modify the height of this terrain down 100 feet, we can do that without touching water. Most of you already know what I'm talking about, but if you don't know, now you know. All right, so let's see. We're going to create a new coaster. Swing launch. All right. And we're going to go into our coaster properties. We are going to make this a scripted block system, heartline of current coaster. And we're going to change our style to a rocket coaster. If you're making a intimate swing launch, it's going to be a rocket coaster, so you could get that intimate track. Bring those in to our world here. Now, I've already done this with the Tigris file that I did, so I'm just going to import from there. All right, now because we raised the terrain height, it's going to be down here. So you're going to come down here, select all of this, and we're just going to, you could either hold page up or page down until it's where you want it to be, or you can just pick it up and bring it up. Easy. All right, perfect height. All right, so once you have your first half imported into No Limits 2, this is the part where we're going to get funky with the switch track. So we're going to go over here to Element, Special Track, Switch Track Merge. All right, we're going to go into our boom, and we're going to do straight left here. Actually, that's wrong. We're going to do straight right. And we are going to line our tracks up. Let's go ahead and copy this. Boom. Let's go ahead and go in here. Let's go in here, go to properties. We'll make sure they're the exact same height. Easy. All right, I'm gonna rotate this. And so I did have that right, straight left, boom. Now we are going to align ourselves with our first half and our left section as best as we can. Just go ahead and move that with the D-pad. Be careful not to mess with the height. You're gonna have to go back in and readjust it. Just rotate that a little bit more. Right. Leave a little space as we are here. We're gonna go ahead and connect these. All right. Now that we have that done, now we can import our spike. And the reason we started at the end up in the air is so that we can connect it here. Let's go down and get our spike. We already showed you how to select multiple sections. We're going to select that. You know, come here. Select all of that. You know, come here. And select that. Boom. We got all of that selected. All right, now let's go ahead and raise that up to the real world, as I would like to call it. All right. We're going to bring this over here. Let's go ahead and go to our top perspective. We'll go ahead and bring this over here. Yeah, go ahead and rotate it. Let's go back to perspective. All right. We want to get that in there. Now I want my spike a little further back as we had it on Tigris. So we're going to bring that down. We're going to add a vertex. Let's add some length to this. Go ahead, go to our top view. Oh. Top view. Well, this don't got to be perfect. We just need something there to pull it out. Let's go back to perspective. All right. And we need a little bit of straight section, right? We want our spike roughly in that area. So let's go ahead and select all of this again. All right, make sure I don't got nothing else selected that you don't want. Let's go ahead and go back to our top view. Gonna bring this right on over here. Getting this perfect, I will tell you, is gonna be a pain in your behind. So do it as best as you can. I'm gonna go ahead and connect these. And that's why we start from the end up in the air, so that when we get down here, we have the correct vertex to connect into, you know, the switch track. That way you don't have to create your switch track and no limits 2 going backwards. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, we looking good so far. We got our switch track connected to our first half and our spike. Now let's get the second half in here. Now to do this is easy. We're gonna select this. We're gonna go over to add element. grab your second half. Sorry. This is the part where we add the vertex. Track, add vertex, boom. And we need that so that we can have this funky vertex. I can never remember if it's a start or an end. And we can have that selected. Make sure you select that after adding the vertex. You're gonna go to element, add second half, and then boom. There you have it. Now the rest is connecting your brake run to your station. Do that however you please. All right. Connect that however you get that connected. I can't remember exactly how I did it in on Tigris. So we're just gonna not save any of this. Hop on over to Tigris, where we have already completed it, connected it. All of our track is connected. So we're gonna come over here and unfreeze this. We're going to take away all of the scenery. And there we have our brake run connected to our station. We also have, as we saw in the other version, our spike connected to our second half, our first half, and the switch track. Now, shucks, we have to bring the scenery back so that way I can show you what we did with custom block logic. Now that I will link it to you in the description, but once you have all of your track work complete, you want to go ahead and get started on your sections. Once you have all of your sections done, of course, we need a station. And moving forward, we don't have any block sections in our first half. We do have a launch section here, which is our first launch, which gets us to our first block section, which we're going to have here. And we're going to name that our pre-switch. Now, going through a switch track, you don't want to really be over 15 miles an hour. If you're over 15 miles an hour, the laterals are going to be very uncomfortable. So you want to do what you have to do to not have uncomfortable laterals when you go into this turn here, because it is a flat turn. There is no banking. It will be uncomfortable. It will look uncomfortable if your track is moving too fast. So each block section, you're going to want to name it. It'll be a lot easier in the long run. So here we have our pre-switch block. All right. And then right after the switch track, you want to have a very small block section, very small. And I didn't name this because I figured out after the fact that I needed this. I'm here to save y'all that trouble. After your switch track, for this to work properly, you are going to need a small block section here. It just doesn't work without it. You need a small block section there. And you don't want it to affect the train in any way. So you can have a speed limit higher than, how fast the train is going to be going anyway. Make sure your deceleration is something that won't affect the train. Put that at 0.01 if you want to. Now, you don't need to configure any of this except for that. That's all you need to configure in this. The only thing you need to configure in this is slowing down enough to where it's comfortable. None of this is configured, just this. Now, from there, you want a launch section, right? And this part is a little tricky. Can we select this? There we go. You want to have very low acceleration, and that way you won't get over your top hat before you get a chance to go backwards into the spike. So you want to have how much mile per hour you need to get over the top hat, but your acceleration is going to be much lower than you normally would have it. So I went with 0.45. You're going to have to tinker with it so that you can get up to whatever point you want on the top hat before you get a rollback. So if you want to come down here, of course you can lower that acceleration even lower. But for my sake, I wanted to get as close to the climax as possible. So that's how I have mine configured. Then going in the direction that our train will be, we're going backwards here. I have another launch section here, and this is to get us up to the height of the spike that we want. I wanted to go all the way up, so I needed 70 miles per hour to do that. And of course, you will already have speed, and you know what? Just tinker with it. Tinker with it. It's all about tinkering with your speeds and your acceleration. So far we only have 2 block sections. Three. Our station, our pre-switch block section, and the post-switch section. We have everything in caps. Let's keep it uniform. Post-switch. All right. Post-switch. Make sure that's very small. Make sure it doesn't affect the speed of the train. Our next block section is going to be here. Our top hat. Again, we don't need to configure anything else. And I do have it so that it slows my train down. I want you to, get a chance to hang there. Well, not hang there, but stall there for a bit, take in the view. I don't want you to just fly over that top hat. So I do have a little break there. It is a trim brake, but I did make it a block section, even though it just acts as a trim. This is hidden. Don't worry about that. This is hidden. Don't worry about that. All right. And then our last block section is going to be the brake run. I'm sorry, not the last. We have a block section here. We do have a transport device because it's going to need to move into the station. It's going to need to move forward. We have our last block section here. I don't know why that's tripping me up so bad. And of course, you're going to want a transport device so that it can propel itself forward into the station. All right, once you have all of your sections of track completed, your launches, your block sections, make sure you don't forget this small one here. You're going to want to start using your custom block logic. All right, now this is available in the Steam Workshop. I will link it in the description. Our first one here is going to be our station. I'm going to show you how I have it configured. I'm not going to go into too much detail because you don't really need a lot of details. Just copy what I have here. We are not moving our special track yet. And of course, our configure block is the station. The next block is our pre-switch. That's all we need. Configure block, next block. Moving right along here. Our next block section is where we want to have our next block at. So we come in here. This is our pre-switch. Our next block is our post-switch. All right. Coming over here to the post-switch, we're going to have our post-switch, and our next block is going to be the top hat. Now, on our small section we have here that doesn't really affect anything. It's just there to make all of this work. Remember that. This is where we want to move our special track or our switch track. So, of course, we have that named switch track. Let me show you that so there's no confusion. Special track properties. Here we have it named switch track. Easy. All right, so we're gonna go back into our custom block logic. Configure block is the post switch. The next block is the top hat. If we want to move our special track. Now this is where the rest of this is gonna have to matter. So we have our enter track, which is the left, and we have our leave track, which is the straight track that goes into the swing launch. Right? That goes into our spike. I'm sorry. And we want to have a delay here of 3 seconds. Otherwise, it's going to keep stopping here. And you're not going to be able to figure out why. You want to have a delay of at least 3 seconds. Right? So we do have a trigger. Now, our trigger is what's going to move it back to the entry, which is our left section. That trigger I have is over here on the top hat, as it says. We want to have a trigger here, and we want to name it top hat. That trigger, once our train crosses the top hat, is going to trigger our switch track to move back into entry. Now, this is the only time you need to configure anything below next block. Is on this small block here, and it's gonna configure the switch track, moving it the first time and then moving it back with the trigger. Okay, now moving to our next block, which is top hat. Now this is where we go back to just basic stuff. Our configure block is the top hat. Our next block is the switch, is the brake run. We're not moving any special tracks. That's already handled in that one last block. So we're gonna come over here to our brake run. This is our configure block. Our next block is pre-station. This is our pre-station block. And we have that configured as such. Our next block is the station, not touching anything else. And then we've already configured our station. This is all very easy, man. Our next block is the pre-switch. If it doesn't work, go through it again. Make sure you have all of your block sections configured. And for the switch track to move, you're going to want to attach all of that into the information of the custom block logic block that is tied to this small piece of meaningless block section here. All right. Now you're going to want to freeze your coaster from there. And you're going to want to leave your editor. Don't forget, in our properties, we have our mode switched to scripted block system. You already know to set your hardline of the current coaster style. So let's go ahead and test it. Save changes. Play that. And here we go. No errors popped up. Our train is moving. And that's all she wrote. All right, so in closing, I just wanted to say thank you if you made it this far in the video. Of course, it is my first ever tutorial for No Limits 2 or FVD of any kind, so it may not be perfect, and that's okay. But if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, any concerns, drop them down in the comment section for me. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. And of course, I'll see y'all in the next one, man. Peace.
Missing someone.